What up? What up? Late night with BDD and a special guest tonight, Plastic Martyr.
Hi.
What's up, my friend? How are you?
I'm doing great. I've got a glass of absinthe and I'm kidding, it's celery juice.
Wait, what is that? It's green, like
It's
absinthe.
celery juice.
Celery juice. Does
Yeah.
it taste exactly like celery?
Yeah. I don't drink alcohol, so this is the closest I'm gonna get to absinthe.
That's interesting. Why don't you drink alcohol? Neither do I, but why?
I don't know. I've never been drunk in my life. I find it gross. I don't.
Wow.
It ages you. I don't. It's horrible for you. It's a poison. I don't know why like people do it.
I mean, that is incredibly healthy and incredibly intelligent. I know a lot of people. I myself am going on. This is August 17th. I'll make 20 years clean and sober. But I know a lot of people. Thank you. Wait. Yeah, thank you.
Yes, hello, we love that.
But yeah, I know a lot of people who don't drink because, for one reason or another. But a lot of people just, they say a glass of wine per day is supposedly healthy, like for your heart and stuff.
Yeah.
But
I'd rather drink the grape juice and get like the tannins from that than the alcohol,
You watch what you put into your body quite a bit, don't you?
There you go, yeah.
Is it because you're a model?
Partly, like growing up, that was my big reason why, my body's my temple. I didn't want to age myself or look like shit. But that's also like a contradiction because a lot of models in the industry do so much. It's
the worst thing you can possibly put in.
Exactly. So I don't know. We get one body and I try to make it as healthy and comfortable as possible because it's my one body that I get.
That's right. Plastic, I noticed your shirt there. It says God is. Let's see the shirt. What does it say?
God is trans. And is she ever?
I hope we get some conservative guests tonight, and that they choke on that.
I hope so too. Yeah, I love this shirt. It was given to me by Change, which is the company that designed this, and it's one of my favorite shirts, and it pisses off so many people. So
that's great. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we have Plastic Martyr back on the show. Last time she was here, it was the day before my birthday last year, April 27th. And we're going to talk about a topic that I feel very strongly and very passionately about. I personally don't feel that enough is being done to fight on behalf of our trans brothers and sisters, and that's what we're gonna talk about tonight. Let me throw this thing up here. The title of tonight's episode is "What Trans Women Really Do in Women's Bathrooms."
Yeah.
Stay tuned because you'll be shocked when you hear the answer. We're also going to talk about Plastic Martyr's experience in acting, and yes, indeed, that is the recently departed Tom Sizemore that you see on the screen. Rest in peace. This is not Plastic Martyr's favorite movie, but we'll cover that also. We're also going to discuss the legislation, the anti-trans legislation that is sweeping across the nation shamefully. And last but not least, we're going to talk about the experience of living your life and having to justify your own goddamn existence every fucking day, and how we can productively gain some ground in this fight for trans rights.
Yes.
Did I about cover it, you think?
Perfectly.
So let's get into. I saw you were all over you are all over Instagram, and or at least my feed, you're in there, and I saw a trailer of yours, and I was like, hey, wait a minute, what? And so, yes, ladies and gentlemen, our friend Plastic Martyr is in a movie. This movie is available on Amazon Prime Video. It's called it's called Subscribe and Like. No, remember, please, to subscribe to this show. Hit that little button it's a little red box in the lower right corner of your screen, and also hit the thumbs up, the like button. No, and that's from last year.
With my old face, God forbid. Okay. We fixed that.
Here we go. This is Yellowbird. Yellowbird is the name of the movie. Why don't you tell us about this and tell us what your role is in this movie?
I love this movie so much. This movie, okay, so Yellowbird is basically about a grocery store, which sounds like bizarre, but it's such a lighthearted, loving story with great characters. I play this woman, Crystal, who the lead in the movie, Jake, meets in an AA meeting and helps get her a job at the grocery store. And it's just, I don't want to give too much away, but it's a really, really, really cute film. I love this film so much. And to be able to play Crystal and bring her to life was just so much fun. She's a lot like me, minus the AA part, because as we've established earlier, I don't drink. She's a lot like me. She loves fashion. She's quirky. She's snarky. And I got to bring a lot of myself into this character. And then a month later, I jumped into a completely different role where I played Wanda in Battle for Pandora with Tom Sizemore. And it was just like crazy to do both these roles a month apart. And both of them were so completely opposite ends of, well, one was me and the other was like basically the opposite of me.
So you are closer to your character in Yellowbird. Yeah.
Yes, but Battle for Pandora, I loved getting to play Wanda because she was so different from who I was. Like, I even went off my hormones for it. Like, because she was this like assassin, like this goes to space, fights aliens. She's this like tough. I made her a lesbian, but I don't think in the story it ever said anything. But in my backstory, she was a lesbian, and I loved it. I loved it. So I wanted to just embody this, the strong, tough former Marine going to space, kicking ass, like hates men, just like this is who I created, and I loved her.
Why didn't you like the movie?
I loved the movie. I just felt like my character wasn't. I don't think my character got to tell her story as well as in Yellowbird. So Yellowbird, Crystal had more screen time, and there was a better development of my character story. In Battle for Pandora, I don't feel like the movie told Wanda's story. So she kind of fell back into a more supporting role. And I just feel like she was such a cool character, and it was kind of, I feel like, a missed opportunity to just really showcase this awesome, badass, strong female character in it. But both movies are fantastic, and both are out, so everybody should go watch them.
Where can we watch Battle for Pandora? Because now I want to see it.
That's also on Amazon. It's on Vudu. It's on Apple TV. It's basically everywhere. Redbox, everywhere. And then Yellowbird is on Tubi, I believe, and Amazon Prime at the moment. It'll be on more.
It's cool. You know, I actually do have quite a few friends in the business, people who have told me at one point or another, you know, in their lives, that said, Majid, I want to be an actor, or I want to be an actress, or whatever. And then lo and behold, within like 2 or 3 years, I'm seeing them on the screen. So I think that's good luck for you, right? I think I must be a good luck talisman for everyone but myself. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Do you have any projects coming up, you know, in the near future that we can look out for?
I have one short that I'm really excited about filming, and then I have another movie that I recently just, what the hell is my dog doing? Hey, that I recently got attached to. I can't really talk about details of it, but it's really exciting, and I cannot wait to film that. I hope I get to film that. Yeah, I hope I get to film it this year, because it It involves one of my heroes actually in it, so it'd be awesome to get to work with her.
Okay, speaking of heroes, I wanted to know, do you ever get an opportunity to speak to other trans actors in the field, like Laverne Cox or Michaela Rodriguez?
Mhm. MJ Rodriguez, yeah.
Yes, yes.
Yes, yeah, a lot of other trans, public figures are friends of mine or mutuals, or we've had run-ins before. I love my trans siblings, especially my trans siblings in the industry. I feel like we are all in one way or another helping each other break down that wall because there is still a huge wall in the industry, but we're getting there. I mean, Kim Petras just won her first Grammy, which is incredible.
I know who that is. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
Yep, Kim's amazing, and, Laverne is hosting red carpets, and it's just, MJ won, I believe she won a Golden Globe or an Emmy or something. These are just huge, huge milestones for us.
When when casting directors reach out to you, are they reaching out for a trans uh actor, or are they just reaching out for anybody? Like, what kind of roles are you finding yourself able to get any role?
No, usually the roles that I go out for are trans roles, and then I don't end up getting them because, unfortunately, the industry and people just want to perpetuate a stereotype that I clearly do not fit. So they end up usually hiring trans people who are either very early on in their transition or they end up hiring drag queens to play those roles. And instead of me, they say I'm not, quote, trans enough, which is hilarious to me because I am as trans as it gets. But they want a stereotype. So I don't usually land those roles. The two that I just recently
I'm
did.
sorry. What is it when you say not trans enough? It reminds me of like growing up myself. Um, in my own neighborhood, people would like accuse me of not being black enough,
Mhm,
because
it's the
of
same thing.
how I spoke, or maybe
Yeah,
my skin complexion wasn't dark enough, or whatever.
mhm. It's the same thing. It's like they would want to cast a cliche, something to perpetuate a stereotype rather than hire you because you're the best actor for the job. So that's unfortunate. We are still a stereotype, but there are certain directors and certain casting directors and certain films and projects where they're able to look past that, like the two I just did. Battle for Pandora, my gender identity was never discussed. I was just a female, so I was
Mm.
cis. Um, and I was trans in Yellowbird. She was a trans character, but she was me. I was able to just be her. And there was nothing stereotypical about it. They didn't make a big deal about it. It wasn't the sole focus of the movie. It just happened that I was trans. And I believe it was mentioned like once briefly in the film, which I loved because that's the way it should be. Yes, I'm trans, but who the fuck gives a shit? Like, honestly.
You know, I have to relate it back to myself because it helps me to fully wrap my
Yeah.
brain and my heart around this thing. And I remember growing up, when you talk about stereotypical characters, I remember growing up watching movies, and at the time, I guess when I was really young, I grew up during the black exploitation era. So in the 70s, if you were black, you were a drug dealer, you were a pimp, you were a member of a gang, etc. And if you weren't one of those things, you would either you like be the first person to die in a horror movie,
Mhm.
or the second to
Yep.
last one to sacrifice yourself to let the other guy go ahead. And it was a long time before I got to see, you know, I don't know, like just like regular black people doing regular things, and being affluent. Somebody with a black
Mhm.
person with money. Oh,
Mhm.
George Jefferson, I guess, from the Jeffersons. That was one. He was moving on up, etc. But you know what I mean. And I
Absolutely.
understand when you say, um, that you should be able to look on the screen and see trans actors and actresses that you can identify with, because whether you like it or not, people, whether you like it or not, they are here and they're here to stay.
And we're not going anywhere. And literally, that's the thing, is like, again, they're calling for like an eradication of trans people. But like, let's say you kill us all off right now. Let's say the conservatives get their way, they kill us all off. In 10, 15, 20 years, you guys will have a huge population of trans people again, because you're born this way. This is not something you can stop. This is something that has been in history for as long as we go back. There have been third gender people. There have been people who just are gender non-binary in every culture, older than America, older religions, older and wiser than Christianity. This is not something you can get rid of. So good fucking luck. That's all I have to say about that.
Plastic, you referenced the eradication thing, and that was a quote from a conservative dickhead by the name of Michael Knowles. I'm going to go ahead and play that clip.
There can be no middle way in dealing with transgenderism. It is all or nothing. If transgenderism is true, if men really can become women, then it's true for everybody of all ages. If transgenderism is false, as it is, if men really can't become women, as they cannot, then it's false for everybody too. And if it's false, then we should not indulge it, especially since that indulgence requires taking away the rights and customs of so many people. If it is false, then for the good of society, and especially for the good of the poor people who have fallen prey to this confusion, transgenderism must be eradicated from public life entirely. The whole preposterous ideology at every level.
Ugh.
It makes me so angry, that attitude, because first of all, what are you supposed to do? Like, cease to exist? Not be your true self?
What's funny, though, is I don't know whether it's my superpowers or whatever, but I can just see this man while he's speaking. I could see it on his face that he's wearing a thong. You know he's wearing a thong. You know he's wearing women's lingerie underneath that cheap fucking suit with that hideous tie. You know he's wearing a thong. He's like so uncomfortable. And you know he went home that night and jerked off to like trans porn, by the way. Like, these people are the most, like, the biggest closet cases. And that's the only thing I can link it to, is why they're so obsessed with hating us, is because they feel shame, because they're either attracted to it, or they want to be that, or they are too afraid to be it, or whatever it is, or their parents instilled in them that it was wrong, and now they feel internalized this shame, and they see other trans people living their best life and thriving and thinking like, fuck them, I hate them, I wish I could do that. And they can't bring themselves to say that. And then other than that, they're just probably pieces of shit who don't know better.
So I grew up in a time that was not enlightened at all. Like, you could basically say I grew up in the dark ages, where you freely used homophobic words. Sometimes they were meant to hurt, sometimes they weren't. But as you evolve through life and you learn that certain things are wrong, they're just wrong. You stop doing it.
Absolutely.
You internalize the lesson and you move forward, right?
Yes.
I remember Jerry Seinfeld in a stand-up routine once. He said that he believes that the reason men are so homophobic is because they have no resistance to sales pressure. So he's basically making the point, saying that that men think they can be convinced to be gay. That's not a thing, is it? You can't just.
If they can't convince us to be cisgender or convince a gay person to be straight, you can't convince a straight person to be gay, and you can't convince a cis person to be trans. You can't teach this shit. Like, the whole grooming thing, it's just baffling, because it's such projection on their part. These are the people who literally from age 4 or 5 are instilling in their sons, you like girls, you're attracted to her, or even vice versa. If a boy is mean to a girl on a playground, oh, he must like you. that just means he likes you. Yes, let's teach our daughters to allow men to abuse us and then tell them that it's because they're attracted to them, and just like, that's grooming. Or I don't know, bringing your kids to fucking church, that's grooming. Forcing your kids to dress and look a certain way, that's grooming. You're like, all the things that you're accusing us of doing are the very things that the cis hetero community does to their kids and thinks nothing of it. But if that child is different in any way and shows any different kind of gender behavior or gender identity or something, then all of a sudden it's bad, and the people who support it are apparently groomers and pedophiles and just all these like horrible things that they're like coming up with no facts, no statistics, no nothing whatsoever. They think that putting a gun in your kid's hand and teaching them to shoot, that's not grooming. That's grooming, my love. I hate to break it to you.
Yeah.
All these things that they deem normal and they deem okay, that they want to raise their children to be just these perfect little reflections of who they want them to be. And if those kids fail to do that, then they're a piece of shit and they kick them out of the house or call them a pedophile. Like, it's baffling to me, the hypocrisy.
There is definitely a trend. It's there are 416 anti-LGBTQ bills that have been introduced in state legislatures. Um, the Tennessee's legislature gave trans youth 1 year to detransition. I don't even know what that means, to how do you detransition?
You don't. That means that Tennessee just set it up so that all those people will end up killing themselves. Tennessee is literally the most problematic, one of the most problematic states at the moment, but leading in the top. This bill that, holy shit, my hair. The way they set this bill up, I gotta stop for vanity. It basically sets these people up to fail. Because, okay, let me just tell you personally. Let's say that law was passed when I was growing up, and I was forced to detransition, which means presenting as male and no longer allowed to be the person that I identify as. I would have 100% killed myself. So I know exactly what those kids are feeling and what those people are feeling. And the difference between not being allowed to be who you are and wanting to end your life versus being allowed to be who you are and feeling so completely euphoric and free in your own body and soul. I don't know why you would try to set it up to make these people want to hurt themselves and end their lives simply because you don't understand them.
I've heard a lot of parents of trans children and trans people themselves uh, saying that suicide is often the end result. Why is that? Why is that? Why is there no other way? There no other coping mechanism, in the community to like help these people before they hurt themselves?
Well, the only option is to transition, really, because think about it. If you were not able to be you and everything about you were told was wrong, and every every avenue that they could, people were taking away left and right, your equality, your rights, making you feel disgusting, beating you down constantly, constantly, constantly. And then the one thing that you're able to do for yourself to try to feel good in your own skin, they then take that away from you, leaving you no option to feel happiness. What are you going to do? You're going to probably turn to drugs. You're going to try to kill yourself. You're going to have a horrible fucking life. They're setting that up so that that's the only option. And there's been this new thing going around, this new phrasing that I just wake up to every day, and I see on my social media and I see on all my trans sisters' social media. And it's go join the 41%. Comments like that. Go
What
join
does
the
that mean?
41%. 41% is their statistic of trans people who commit suicide. Now, let me just point something out. While the suicide rate is high for trans people, it is not that we kill ourselves because we hate ourselves. It's not because we kill ourselves that we think that there's something wrong with being trans. It's nothing like that. We end up taking our own lives because people like that make our existence so fucking insufferable that it's impossible to even wake up and want to exist anymore. So unfortunately, it ends up being that we end our lives because whether your family disowns you, you can't find employment, you're just being harassed left and right. There isn't now, if there isn't an avenue to get gender affirming healthcare and that's taken away, what are you going to do? And then you have people screaming at you left and right that you're a pedophile, you're a groomer, you're disgusting, you're a freak, go kill yourself. We end up doing it. You bully us to the point that we no longer have an option and we have to kill ourselves. And these people are gloating about it, encouraging it. Go join the 41% because you're different, because I'm too fucking stupid to understand you. Go kill yourself. Like, how is this a thing? How is this not being moderated on social media? Before Elon Musk destroyed Twitter, thank you, Elon, it was a decent place. If I reported these comments, within minutes, those profiles were taken down, those comments were removed, and those profiles were banned. Now I report those same horrific death threats and comments, and I get an email back saying, we didn't find anything wrong with what they said. We didn't find anything breaking the terms of services. Oh, really? I mean, hate crimes are there's no consequences for it. And ever since Donald Trump, hate has been glorified. So these fucking idiots have a platform where they could just hate and spew and hate all day long. And that's what they do with zero fucking consequences.
I'm so sorry that you are going through that. That is disgusting.
It's horrible. It's horrible.
I came across so we're going to stay on Tennessee for a minute here. I came across your tweet here. Hey, it's Tuesday. Also, here is anti-LGBTQIA Tennessee Governor Bill Lee in drag. I wonder why he hates drag queens and trans people so much. And I reached out to you yesterday because I've been thinking a lot about drag and the whole controversy. And lately, there has been like I didn't even know that drag brunches or drag brunch readings were a thing. I didn't know that they were happening. I felt like I was Rip Van Winkle who just came out of a 20-year coma. Where was I when this became a thing? So anyway, all of a sudden all these people are up in arms. They're shooting out power stations because they're mad about it. And look, I remember a lot of these shows you probably won't remember here. These shows and
Mrs.
movies.
Doubtfire, Tootsie, Medea. We got Edna down there. Oh, I know all these. Rocky Horror Picture Show. Oh,
Okay,
yes.
so you know actually more than I thought you would. But I grew up watching those things.
Yeah.
But why it almost feels unnecessary to have a reading. Why do a drag brunch reading? You're big because those people on the far right are going to make an issue out of it. Why not just have I don't know, a non-drag reading? Are we intentionally trying to start some shit with them? What are we
Well,
doing
no,
with these
drag
drag
is an
brunch
art
readings?
form. Drag is an art form. So drag has been around forever. Drag started in, I think it was like the Shakespearean era. It would be written on the side, so and so enters dressed as girl, because women couldn't act then. Women weren't allowed to act. It was only men. So they would dress in drag, and that's where drag came in. However, through the years, drag has just made its home in our culture and it's never been an issue. Like you showed all those movies. We got White Chicks, Mrs. Doubtfire, Tootsie. Like there's so many drag references, and then there's phenomenal drag queens like Jackie B, RuPaul. There's just like tons of drag in our culture that I've never seen this issue before. This issue started to come up when people started to attack things like gun rights and other kind of things, that then the right was like, okay, we need to create a distraction. We're going to go after LGBTQ stuff. So
The biggest danger of taking your child to a drag show is that a Christian could show up with a gun.
yes, thank you so much. Exactly.
You like
So
how I did that?
yeah, and it's true. I've never seen anybody get killed at a drag show from drag queens. I've seen people get killed at a drag show because a Christian entered with a gun and shot the place up, including killing 2 trans people.
Mhm.
But um, there's no threat with drag queens, and you could have a regular brunch without drag. I mean, then people should do it. But I don't think telling drag queens they can't do what they love, which is express themselves through an art form. Which, by the way, drag, you don't have to be a male. You could be cisgender, trans, hetero, gay, cisgender female, cisgender. It doesn't matter what you are. Drag is an art form. There are cisgender females who do drag. There
Mm.
are straight men who do drag.
So the the objection I believe that most people have is that they say they don't care if it's only adults in the room, but then they don't want children exposed to it because they believe that this somehow sexualizes the children, exposing them to.
These people have a fantasy in their head of sexualizing children, and you got to ask yourself, where does that fantasy come from? Why do you constantly project this bizarre thing about children being sexualized when trans people and drag queens are not sexualizing children? It's never happened. Priests, however, do. Cis men, primarily white cis men, are the leading statistic of people who molest children, actually. We're not going after that. If they really cared about the kids and protecting the kids, they would be going after the statistics, not the minority on the statistics list. Like,
There's so much hypocrisy,
yeah.
and let's see. I feel like I do have some of it, but before I do, here let's look at this hypocrisy here. This is Randy McNally, who is the lieutenant governor of Tennessee,
Mhm.
who has social media habits where he goes to this one guy's social media page and he interacts with him a great deal, says, very racy things, he really is enjoying this guy who is gay,
Mhm.
and he's proud of it, and he's showing off his butt cheeks and whatever. And the lieutenant governor, who is busy instituting anti-LGBT initiatives in his state, is in the closet.
Oh, absolutely. They all have their secret little twink that they go to at the end of the night after trying to strip us of our rights. And they, like I said, they're all in the closet. There's proof. I was friends with a lot of male escorts in LA, and I'm not going to announce who it was, but there's a lot of them who have had clients that are Republican politicians, and a lot of them. And I'm not going to say who because I'm afraid they're going to like sue me, but there are a lot of those anti-LGBTQ Republican politicians who come to West Hollywood when they're in town and hire a boy for the night. This
Mm.
is not a new thing. This has been going on for a very long time. But I don't care. Like, that's the thing, is I don't care. I care that you're
Be
taking
yourself.
privacy. And you know what? If you don't want to be out, that's your prerogative. That is your business. You don't have the right then to take away rights and other people's happiness simply because you're a miserable human being. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't eat meat. I am a vegan. I love animals more than humans. I'm not sitting there in your face about being vegan and shaming people for eating meat. Do I eat meat? No. Do you have a right to eat meat? Absolutely. Do I think it's wrong? Yes. Am I going to kill you? No. Am I going to blow up your fucking place of work and threaten you because you eat meat? No. It's like, leave people alone. Just leave us alone.
Live and let live, right?
Yeah.
Republicans used to be the party of, small government, keep the government out of your business. Now they want to be all up in people's business. They want to legislate whether you have the right to have an interracial marriage, which I do, and fuck you if you think you're gonna do something about
Yeah.
that. They want to stop same-sex couples from being married. Come on, this is
Interfaith
2023.
interfaith couples, they're threatening that they won't be able to get married. If you're a Christian and a Jew, you won't be able to get married.
So
So
so I just want to step back to when I said, why does there have to be why do we have to have
drag
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 brunch
story hour.
readings, right? And here's my thing, right? We are slowly trying to pull society forward. And I don't think it's all in one shot. I remember in the late 90s, early 2000s, there was that Will and Grace show, right? When that first came out. And then there was Queer Eye for the Straight Guy,
Mhm.
right? It was another show. And slowly but surely, pop culture was introducing more LGBTQ friendly content.
Mhm.
Why? Because you know
It's
what?
real.
That's life, whether you choose to accept it or not. If you want to live in your own little fucking, you know, butthole of the country and never leave that, that's fine. But the rest of us are out here interacting with many different people who are different from us.
Yeah.
We're different. So I think, I think it's a good thing to introduce the concept to children that when you grow up, there will be people who are different from you in many different ways, and that's just what it is. And these people want to shield their kids from that, and it's not helping them because you're not going anywhere, and millions of other people who are either gay or trans or whatever are not going anywhere. And
No.
so they're just going to have to learn to live with it, learn to interact in a way that is not harmful to yourself and to others, for
It's just
crying out loud.
baffling to me because I feel like we haven't learned anything. We haven't learned anything from uh, racial segregation. We haven't learned anything from the Holocaust. We haven't learned anything from any of these horrible things that took place in our history. We clearly haven't learned shit from because we're allowing it to repeat now with trans people.
What we
And
are in right now, this is the civil rights issue of today.
yeah,
This is it. This
and
is
we
it.
haven't learned anything from it. Like, I'm seeing so many parallels to the start of Nazi Germany, and it's terrifying. It's absolutely terrifying. The propaganda, the lies, the hate, the trying to shut down the media to control books. Wasn't it the Nazis who were burning books? Now we're
Yes.
banning them.
Yeah.
So then the calling for a complete genocide of an entire group of people, and nobody's alarmed. Nobody's talking about this. Nobody, except
Meanwhile,
LGBTQ people and you.
meanwhile, the GOP protects actual child marriage while
Yes.
fear mongering about drag queens and transgender people. You heard
Yes.
about this. This was the law in West Virginia.
Mhm.
West Virginia, they defeated a measure to like raise the age in which children can be married in West
Yeah.
Virginia.
Yeah,
Unreal.
and in places, I believe also, I'm not 100% sure, but in other states, like Tennessee, I believe also is trying to lower the age of marriage for like that kids could get married. So you're sitting there and you're spouting this stupid like rhetoric about how you want to protect the children. What about the children? Meanwhile, you took away laws that if, God forbid, that child was raped and impregnated, that they could get an abortion. You would now make that child carry that baby to full term and have it. So you think it's a child is too young to decide their gender identity, but you don't think a child is too young to have a baby. You also don't think
Hmm.
a child is too young to get married. You also don't think a child is too young to have a gun, but you think
Hmm.
it's too young to decide, I feel like a girl inside, so I'm going to wear a fucking skirt today. And then there's this fear mongering going on, and everybody's getting each other riled up about I just got to protect the kids from getting surgery. They're not gonna. I fucking hate to burst your bubble. They're not getting surgery. Like maybe a handful of kids in history have gotten gender affirming care like below the age of 18. Usually it's 16 with parental consent, and that's very rare. Very rare that I've ever seen that happen.
I have one of your tweets later on, but this one here
Yes.
it says, "I've never in my life been assaulted or groomed by a trans person. I have, however, been sexually assaulted by both cis men and a cis woman.
Mm-hmm.
Stop spreading disgusting lies about trans people. We aren't groomers or pedophiles. You've confused us with your cisgender pastors."
Yeah.
That's fire. That's fire. Later on in the show, I actually do have a one of your tweets discussing 16-year-old girls who get breast augmentation surgery, right? And that's, because I hear a lot about people complaining that children are being mutilated.
Yeah. And look, I completely agree. I don't think kids should be getting surgery, but we also are a society that the second a biological male is born, we cut his penis off and circumcise him. And then you want to sit there and tell us that we're mutilating our bodies because I got a vagina? I'm sorry, like the hypocrisy. And we don't perform gender affirming surgeries on children. I recently
What
did.
What is the age? What is the age for the
18,
gender?
18 and up, and in very rare cases, like I said, 16. Very rare. Usually you have to see therapists.
It's definitely 18.
Yeah. They're not performing. Again, in America, maybe in other countries it's a different law, but in America it's 18, and in some rare cases 16 with parental consent, and you have to get therapist letters and all this other shit. And it's not, and then they go, oh, well, we don't want them going on hormones and it's destroying. That's fine then. Don't let your kid, if they are trans, don't let them go on hormones if that's how you feel about it. But you don't get to take that away from everybody else.
How long were you in therapy before you were able to get your surgery?
I didn't have to go to therapy. I had to go to 2 separate therapists, 1 visit each, and have a letter. And they took one look at me. They're like, okay, here you go. And I ended up actually coaching those therapists on how to appropriately talk to trans patients. I grew up with a mother who has 2 masters in psych, and I grew up reading psych books. So I understand psychology very well. And these therapists were so ill-equipped at that point to be actually like even talking to trans people. They didn't know the right terminology. They weren't sensitive to a lot of issues. So I actually ended up coaching my quote therapists on how to appropriately talk to trans patients. Anyway,
is that an issue, by the way? Is that like a serious issue? Like there aren't enough therapists that are properly equipped to deal with trans patients because they just don't have enough experience? Is that the thing?
I think so. This was a while back. So back then there weren't. I hope now it's changed, but back then there wasn't. And it's not easy you don't just wake up and say, yeah, you know what? Today I feel like a girl. I think I'm going to go get my dick chopped off and go get some titties put in. Like, that's not what happens. You have to be on hormones for a minimum of a year before you're able to get surgery. Then you have to have a consultation with a doctor. There's usually a 2 to 3 year wait list. And then you have to get letters from therapists. You have to, if you're trying to get insurance to cover it, you have to try to get your insurance to cover it, which could be a year of fighting with them. It's not an easy process. You don't just wake up and go buy a vagina like it's a purse at the mall. And again, these procedures save lives. So I'm living proof that this surgery and my ability to change my gender saved my life. Had I not been able to, like I said earlier, I wouldn't be here today. My plan was to end my life at 30 if I wasn't able to be in the body that I wanted. And that was just a goal I set in my mind when I was young, that if I wasn't able to be fully me by the time I was 30, that I didn't want to be here anymore. Luckily, there was an option for me. So to take that away from somebody else, it's sadistic. It's absolutely sadistic.
Do you feel like the Democratic Party is doing enough
No.
to
No, I don't. No, I don't. I think Here's the problem with the Democratic Party. Again, I'm a Democrat, so I get to talk shit about them. But they're a little too kumbaya. I get a lot of these comments of, well, we should lead with love. And no, bitch, the time for leading with love is over. We have led with love. And look where it got us. Absolutely fucking nowhere. So it's time that we stand up and we fight fucking dirty. So that's just the way I feel about it. Like, I don't think that approach is working anymore. I don't think sitting back and being passive and I wish you happiness elsewhere and best of luck. It's not working.
For the most part, I agree. I agree with you. I do not think the Democratic Party is doing enough
No.
to fight this battle. I feel like their approach is more like, I'm just gonna kind of hope this thing goes away and solves itself, kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's not the case across the board. There is one particular there's one legislator in Nebraska. She is in week 3 of a filibuster trying to prevent a trans bill from being passed. And she says, the Omaha married mother of 3 says, I will burn the session to the ground over this bill. So I thought that was fantastic. She was on, I think she was on Ari Melber earlier tonight. But aside from, isolated instances like that, I definitely think that, more could, and should be done. Here's a comment from Matt Walsh, who is another conservative dickhead. He says, we were minding our own business when suddenly the trans movement came along and demanded that we totally abandon biology, common sense, and truth itself for its sake. Our war against this scourge is a defensive struggle. They started it. They wanted this fight. Now they have it. I'm sorry. You started this fight by what? Just wanting to exist?
And I love that
that what he's saying?
we were minding our own business, then suddenly the trans movement came along. No, bitch, we've been existing this whole time. This isn't a new thing. You decided to make it something it's not. You decided to start throwing shit around like we're child molesters and groomers. You decided to put all these laws in place and fight for our genocide. And it's like, no, sweetheart, we've always been here. We will always continue to be here. And you started this war, and we will fight it.
Yeah. Yeah. If they were minding their business,
they would mind their business. They would be minding their business, which they're not.
We'd be fine. But your genitals, your sex life, your being is nobody else's business. It's it's nobody's business.
They've made it their business. They made it their business by every single day dissecting my genitals, by dissecting my body, tearing me apart, tearing me down, analyzing my voice, my shoulders, my jawline, tearing me apart in photos, pointing it out day after day after day. It doesn't matter what I post. They will wake up that day and spend hours on their phones or computers leaving comments. You're a man. You're disgusting. You're a groomer. These people have dedicated their fucking worthless little pathetic lives to trying to tear down other people. I mean, in itself, it's kind of amusing and hilarious to me that these people have nothing better to do to sit there and like type "you're a man" to me. Well, like, sweetheart, I don't see where. But at the same time, it's also disgusting that we have to wake up every single day and see this. And then the TERF. So we got the conservative Republicans who are coming at us, and we have then the TERFs who. That shit show is another like
what is TERF? I know TERF is like an anti-trans person. Do you know what that acronym stands for?
Yeah, TERF stands for Trans Exclusionary Radical Feminist. Now, these are faux feminists who don't actually do shit for feminism other than set us back. They feel like trans women are appropriating women and that we are, quote, misogynist, which I find that hilarious. But what TERFs don't understand, the TERF movement, what they don't understand is they're aligning their beliefs with cis hetero white men. So you're trying to fight feminism by amplifying fascism. Like, it's not feminism you're fighting for. You're actually killing feminism and you're allowing fascism to rise. And they don't see that. They don't see that the people that they are agreeing with and aligning their beliefs with are the very people who will strip them of their rights as women the second they get in power. So, go for it.
We have a viewer here. Becky wants to know any advice I can give to my little nephew who is now trans. She has my love and support. Just asking. Thanks.
I think that right there, just supporting and loving your beautiful nephew is
She's saying she's 6.
6. That was about the age that I started my transition at 5. So that's a normal age actually for kids to start understanding their gender identity, and that's completely normal. It's so important to have. I don't know about the rest of their family if they're supportive or not, but to have at least one person in their corner rooting for them and just supporting them, it makes all the difference in the world. And thank you for supporting your nephew.
Now, so a lot of people, one of the sticking points here is that they're saying that children at that age are too young
They're not.
to know. And I found this video on your feed. Do you mind if I play this?
Please.
So as you guys know, I started my transition at about 5 years old, but I knew even earlier than that, at around 2.5, 3 years old, I started vocalizing that I knew I was born in the wrong body and that I was female. Is it possible for a child that young to understand their own gender identity?
Well, listen, children do role-playing and gender diverse behavior all the time as children, and it doesn't necessarily mean they're transgender. However, when a child declares themselves to be a gender that does not conform with their birth assignment, it indeed seems to be real. They know from a very early age, usually 4, 5, or 6 years old even. And we do know that gender identity tends to be constitutional. It's hardwired, it's who we are, and you can ask any parent who's ever had a trans child. They know. Trying to change that is like barking up a tree.
Now, I speaking as a parent, I know, and forgive me if what I'm about to say sounds ignorant, but I know that like when I've brought kids to a toy store, for instance, and we're going through the store and some other kid has a toy, and then they turn around and look at me and say, "Hey, can I get that thing toy?" So there are people who believe, um, that being trans can almost be like a fad. Like, other kids want to do it just because their friends are doing it.
Absolutely.
Is that a thing?
Yeah. Kids like Dr. Marcy Bowers, who I respect so much. She actually is the doctor that did my hoo-ha surgery. Anyway, kids role play all the time with gender diverse behavior all the time. And you see it a lot as kids. They play dress up, they do it. That doesn't mean they're trans. But if allowing them to role play in that opposite gender for as long as they want, it's not going to hurt them. If they decide at one point, you know what, I don't think I want to do this anymore, I'm cool as a boy, great. You're not signing a contract saying if you dress up as a girl today, you have to be a girl the rest of your life. So I understand when they say, oh, we don't want a kid to make a mistake. That's why there's laws in place where you can't just wake up and get the surgery. You can't just wake up and start hormones. You have to go to a doctor. You have to be presenting as that gender for a while. You have to be living as that. And you don't transition. These children are not, like, let me just make this very clear. Children are not getting surgery. So by allowing your child to transition at this young age, it's called social transition. And that's not going to harm them. The only thing that's going to harm them is the repercussions from assholes in society. And my mother told me that when I was young. I remember like I said, I started my transition really young, and I wanted to go to school in like a dress or a pink tutu or whatever the hell it was. And my mom said, you can go to school wearing the tutu and kids may make fun of you. or you can come home and put it on after school and kids won't make fun of you. And she presented me with that choice. And I was like,
Wow.
fuck those kids. I'm putting on the tutu. You know what I mean?
Did
So
you get bullied?
absolutely, I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit to this day. But like, that's the thing. And if you know what, I got bullied and it was too much for me to handle, guess what I would have done? Not gone to school in the tutu the next day. But to make laws preventing anyone from doing that is just like I said earlier, it's sadistic.
Sounds fascist also.
It's very fascist.
Let's see. This may come as a shock to you, Bible thumping Republican bigots, but you can't teach people to be gay or trans. You're either born that way or you're not. Stop trying to dehumanize an entire group of people simply because you're too stupid to understand us. I gotta say, your Twitter feed is actually a treasure trove of really solid tweets. And yeah, I think you're doing some fantastic work there, and it's very necessary.
Thank you.
The other night I saw a video that you'd produced, and it is the title of tonight's show, what trans women really do in women's bathrooms. And I thought it was very clever because when I first started becoming aware of the debate, it was I think there was the law in North Carolina, right? They were trying to come up with, I don't remember if it was like a special trans bathroom, or they were just trying to keep trans. I don't remember what the law was, but the concern was that a man was going to use the excuse of trans to put on a dress and, I don't know, get a peek at a little girl in a bathroom or something. Or
which, how often does that happen? I've never seen it. I'm sure it's happened before, but not enough that we need to make laws about it. Like,
yeah, I've seen parents, I've seen men bring their little girls into the bathroom because he's the only parent there and he can't go into the women's bathroom.
Exactly.
So you
I
know,
think instead of attacking trans rights and trans people, I completely understand these parents' concern to protect their children. I actually admire that and commend them for that. However, attacking us for that is not the answer. I think maybe passing a law that all children under the age of 16, 18, whatever it is, must be accompanied by an adult or a guardian, a parent or a guardian, into the public bathrooms should be the law that we pass instead, not taking away trans rights. Why don't we put a law in place to protect those kids by saying those kids are not allowed to go into a public bathroom without adult supervision?
Well, that would just be too sensible now, wouldn't it?
Solve the problem.
Okay, so without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I would now like to play for you the video after which this episode is named What Trans Women Really Do in Women's Bathrooms by Plastic Martyr.
I'm a trans woman in the women's bathroom, and I'm going to show you what we really do. First things first, we find an empty stall. We go inside the stall. We shut the door, we lock it, and then we go to the bathroom. Afterwards, we flush the toilet, we open the door. Oh my god. And the most important thing that I, as a trans woman, do in the women's restroom is I wash my hands, because public bathrooms are fucking disgusting. After that, I open the door and I leave. So, that's what trans women do in the women's restroom. Myth busted.
You know, I'm grateful that you were able to dispel that myth there. I also appreciate that you did not use your hand to flush.
No, or open the doors.
Disgusting.
I'm a paper towel girl all the way. I don't. No.
Yeah. That's stuff like that. It's important, and I don't think this is going to be an easy battle. I think I think it's going to be like one baby step at a time of educating people and making them understand that you have no interest in their children. You
No.
have none.
None.
Just want to live your own goddamn life.
I honestly don't give a fuck about your kids. There you go, people. That's the God's honest truth. I don't give a fuck about them. I don't. Like, I have enough problems in my life that I'm focusing on me. I don't give a shit about seeing your fucking kid peeing in a stall. And I love the people who are like, I don't want my daughter seeing you peeing in a bathroom. Well, then don't have your fucking kid look while I'm in a private stall, as you just saw. I've never been into a women's restroom that didn't have private stalls. Where are they see? Well, if my daughter's naked, why would your daughter be naked outside of a stall in the first place? That's, to me, bad parenting on you, girlfriend. So and then the ones that are like, I don't, just go do that in the men's bathroom. Don't you think it would confuse your sons if they saw a gorgeous woman with big tits and a vagina pissing in a urinal? Don't you think explaining to your kid then, well, she was born male, that's why she's peeing out of her vagina into a urinal, that would fuck him up even more. I'm sorry. Having me go into a private stall, do my business, wash my hands and leave, like you just saw, I think is going to harm your kids way less. Now, the other thing that's interesting is we only ever hear this attack on trans women. You never hear anybody bitching about trans men. So again, where does this hate and this ignorance come from that it's trans women that are constantly being attacked? Not that I want people to attack trans men, but like, why is it that when people think of transgender, they only think of male to female, not female to male?
Because they are more threatened. They are more threatened by the idea of a man in disguise, a man tricking. Like, I guess here's the thing. Okay, maybe it's they're afraid that they might go on a date with someone. I'm spitballing here. Maybe they're afraid they go on a date with someone. At the end of the night, they find out that it wasn't who they thought they were.
Yeah.
I honestly, I don't know why there's such a disparity between vitriol for trans women versus trans men.
Yeah. And that's the thing too. It's like trans men also, I feel like, are not getting the recognition they deserve too. There's such a different story to be told for trans men versus trans women. And I feel like because of all the hate, obviously, towards trans women, a lot of our stories are being told left and right. And you see a lot of public trans women who are telling their stories. But trans men that are not getting to share their stories as much. And there's no, I feel like, platform given to them to talk about their experiences or
like
their
Elliot Page.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And again, I don't want people to be hating on them either, but it's always odd to me that when people think of trans, they think of male to female. And they're always like, well, you can't just wake up and cut your dick off and be a woman. And it's like, it's so sad that you think that it's only one way. And it just goes to show the level of ignorance that these people truly do not understand the things they're talking about. And that ignorance is what's leading to violence, murders for trans people, these horrible bills being taken away. And it's all because they don't understand. And I feel like this country, America, has now validated stupidity and glorified stupidity. And I can trace it back to when we elected a reality TV star as a president who says the most just ridiculous things and had hordes of people cheering him on. And
it was there before Trump, and I can pinpoint at least 8 years more. Yeah, more than 8 years. 12 years. It was the election of 2004. It was Bush was running for a second term against John Kerry, and there was this alarm that went out across the right wing. They were all up in arms about gay marriage. It was gay marriage back then was today's trans rights.
Yeah.
They just,
I remember that.
Yeah, they've just moved the goalposts again. I want to ask you about the other day. Drew Barrymore got caught a lot of flack for having Dylan
Mulvaney.
Mulvaney on her show, and she showed some compassion for her. This is it says here, it's crazy how Drew Barrymore is being mocked for showing compassion for a transgender woman on her show. Drew has always shown compassion for people, and I love her for it. Also, transgender rights are human rights and protect transgender kids. Now, the vitriol that I'd seen about Dylan Mulvaney is that some people actually don't believe that she is trans. They think that she's putting on she's putting on an act. I don't know. That
She's
would have to be the
100%.
longest long con anyone has ever seen, right?
They say that about they say it about Caitlyn Jenner. They say it about every public trans person. We don't really think they're trans. Who the fuck are you to decide that? Like, where is your master in psychology? Where did you do your gender studies at? Like, why do you think? Like, it's just bizarre to me. So, I know
Do you
Dylan.
think you? I'm just curious. Do you think you could tell if somebody was faking it?
I mean, yes, yeah, yeah. You don't go through what we go through to fake it. It's not an easy thing. It's not an easy road. You don't get surgery. You don't go on hormones. You don't do all the things that we do and deal with the amount of hate we hate for shits and giggles. These people they're not faking it. Dylan I know Dylan. She's a friend of mine on social media, and she is 1,000% living her truth. And I think, Drew, if you see this, Drew, I love you. Thank you for supporting us. And the people who have an issue with Drew Barrymore having a transgender person on, those people need help. Those people need to reevaluate their lives. I don't know how anybody could actually sit there and be outraged by this, that somebody is a guest on somebody's show. Like, who cares? I mean, it really goes back to the days where you couldn't have like people of color on TV shows. And it's like, how are we back there? How did we go back there again? How? And how is this not being called out? And how is this being okay? Like, nobody's calling. It's baffling to me. I don't understand how people are not seeing the parallel here. And it's just gross to me that there's that many people. I saw how much hate Drew was getting that day, and I see how much hate Dylan gets, and I see how much hate I get. And it's not easy. And I've come to Dylan's defense in a couple videos before where she was getting called out by Caitlyn Jenner, and I defended her against that. And I defended her against the TERFs when they were coming after her because she posted a video saying that she carries around feminine hygiene products. And it's just disgusting to me that these people have nothing better to do than to hate on trans people. Like, we're not doing anything other than just trying to live our life. And if you don't like that, don't pay attention to us. If you don't want your kids going to a drag story hour, don't bring your kid to a drag story hour. Don't bring your kid to a drag bar then, if you don't want them being exposed to that. You know what I mean? If you don't want to see trans people thriving, stop following us. Stop going to our pages every single day and leaving comments. Like, if I don't like somebody, and there's a lot of people I don't like, if I don't like somebody, I don't go to their page every single day. I don't troll their comment section. I don't obsess about them. They simply do not exist to me. The same people, the trolls who are sitting there leaving hate comments on my page every single day, I don't even really engage with most of them. I mute them and make them not exist anymore, because that's what they are. They're non-existent. I call the invisible people. They don't deserve any attention. They don't deserve a voice. They don't deserve any of that. I just simply mute them. And there's so much hate being directed towards trans people. And like you saw with Dylan being on the Drew Barrymore show, they are now going to boycott Drew Barrymore because she showed compassion to a trans person who's an entertainer. She's an entertainer.
Anybody who's saying that they're going to boycott Drew Barrymore probably wasn't watching her in the first place, because then they would have already known the kind of person that she is.
Exactly.
I've heard the question. Here's one thing that I found very interesting. Over the past year or two, this question came up quite a bit, and that guy Matt Walsh asked it. He did a whole movie about it, and that question was, what is a woman? Right? And for some reason, this question is difficult for folks on our side to answer. And maybe this is my answer: is a woman is who the fuck she says she is.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe that's a bit simplistic. That's not going to make everybody happy who want to, hang their hat on chromosomes or want to hang their hat on this, that. And a woman is who she says she is.
Yeah. What's really bizarre to me is the amount of women who now are degrading women by trying to cancel out trans women. And let me explain what I mean by that. I see a lot of women on Twitter, specifically the TERFs, saying you're not a woman because you can't have a child. And I just find that so sad that they think a woman's only purpose is to procreate and have a baby. That's not what being a woman means. There are plenty of women who are born without uteruses. There are plenty of women who have to have uteruses removed because of hysterectomies. There are plenty of women who are barren and can't have children. There are plenty of women who do not have the same experiences as every other cis woman on the planet. They are still women. There are women who have had mastectomies and don't have breasts. They are still women. There are women who are born intersexed. They are still women if that's what they identify as. Like, you don't get to decide for people who they are, whether it's valid or not valid. It's like, yes, biologically, I will never have been born female. I'm not trying to say I am. That would be a lie. That's why I say I'm transgender. That's what transgender means. So, yes, I will never be biologically born female. I can 100% agree with that. However, I'm still a woman. I transitioned to being a woman, and you can't take that away from me. You can't tell me I'm not. You could try to all day and night. I still am going to laugh it off and go sit on the fucking toilet and pee out of a vagina and be validated that I am a woman. And you know what? I also want to just also point out that it doesn't matter if you have a vagina or not. That doesn't make you a woman either. Like, when I know plenty of trans women who don't want bottom surgery. They are happy with having a penis, and they are just as much a woman as anybody else. So
Why don't they want to have the surgery?
it's all a personal thing. Sometimes they like, sometimes in some cases I've had friends who didn't want to get the surgery because they are in a lesbian relationship with a woman who likes to be penetrated. So for them, they enjoy intercourse with a penis. I personally, I was mortified by that part of me, and I couldn't have that on me. So there was no question in my mind that I was making the right decision getting that surgery. But it's a personal thing. Not every trans person's story is the same, just like not every cis person's story is the same. And to decide for everyone what is male and what is female when we already know and science has proven that it's a big, huge spectrum.
I personally think more discussions like this need to happen.
Yeah.
On a much bigger platform, right? But more often, because look, I don't know the answers to everything, but I'm open, right? I'm open to learning. Like 20, 30, 40 years ago, they were dumping kids, dozens, hundreds of kids, into special education classes. They were leaving them behind because they were behavior problems or whatever. They couldn't plug into the class the way the majority of the other students were, only to find out that most of them probably had ADD or
Yeah.
ADHD. And back then, we didn't even know what it was. You know what they used to call those kids? They used to call them retarded.
Yep.
That's what they used to, the R word. Now it's the R word, right?
Yeah.
But back then, they used to call them that, right?
Yeah.
And it's because our knowledge as a people had not advanced, it had not evolved far enough for us to have a better understanding and treat these people the way they deserve to be treated. Get them the medication they need, get them the help they need. And now they don't get dumped in, special education classes. Some of them are like the smartest kids in the school because they have that chemical treatment, right?
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? So all this time, back, and I'm sure maybe 1,000 years ago, those same kids, people used to hit them with rocks, probably thought that, the devil was in their brain, and I'm gonna bash, I'm gonna bash the devil out of your brain with this rock here,
Those were probably Christians who did that.
you know? So yeah, it's 2023, and
we've gotten nowhere.
well, we have gone. I feel like
yeah.
I feel like we have made progress. Maybe not as much as we should have,
Yeah.
but we have
I
made
know.
some incremental progress.
Thinking about that the other day. I was like, when I was younger and I was thinking about the future, I definitely was thinking about a future way more evolved than the one we're in now. And I'm not talking about flying cars and teleportation and shit like that. I'm talking about just politically and compassionately and with empathy, understanding people who are different than you. I thought it would change. It hasn't. I mean, we're discussing it more. I do agree that like we are discussing things more. There's more visibility, but with that said, there's more visibility for the hate too, which I feel like again is setting us back because. And again, then you got the people going, "Well, it's my freedom of speech," and blah blah blah. Hate needs to have consequences. Hate can't be excused and simply said, "Oh, it's freedom of speech." Hate is problematic and it's leading to a rise in anti-Semitism, transphobia, homophobia, racism, sexism, just all kinds of horrible fucked up shit. And then you can't just sit there and be like, well, it's they're right, their freedom of speech. Meanwhile, you're going to take away people's actual human rights because of those hateful opinions. It makes no sense to me. So I don't know. I just think we're really lost as a society and a world. And I think I really hope it's a simulation we're living in, but I feel like this simulation has failed because we are not doing well as a society at the moment.
The mark of a good society is how it treats its most vulnerable members, and right now the trans community is our most vulnerable, I think, the most vulnerable members of our society. And I'm not going to give up on this fight, and nor should you. I think you should obviously should be at the forefront of this fight, and living your best life, and reaching back to help pull as many forward as you can, and help and continue to help educating. I think your videos and your tweets are fucking awesome. They are spot on. And I hope every day you reach just one trans person who is struggling, who you know, who is on the verge of making a bad decision. I hope you're able to reach one per day at least.
That's why I do it. That's why I put myself in the line of fire, because I am hoping that I'm able to either educate someone and get a new ally on our side, or be somebody that someone can identify with. And I do want to just say to any ally or trans people out there that we need to continue to fight, and that this is a war and it's a genocide against trans people, and we need to fight, and we need to stand up, and we need to keep talking about this stuff and not let it fade in the background, because that's what happens so often is we talk about things for a week, we're all hot and bothered by it, and then we let it fade in the background after Kylie Jenner takes a dump or something, and something else distracts us. We can't do that. This is our lives, this is our humanity, and we need to keep fighting, and we need our allies to be outspoken, and we need to shut down rhetoric. That's the really important thing, is shut down misinformation that you hear. Don't just be like, well, it's their opinion and blah, 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 and I understand where they're coming from. No, you need to shut that shit down. Fact check shit, educate yourself, get as much ammo as you can to shut it down, because otherwise hate wins. If we stay silent, hate wins. And I refuse to do that. I sit around and I look at my home that I'm so proud of, and I love my home and my life here, my friends, my family, my boyfriend, like everything that I've built here. And I'm scared because I may have to leave that. I may have to sell my home, and I may have to leave and go to some new country if, God forbid, America goes even further south, because it will no longer be safe here. And I think that every single trans and LGBTQIA person should have a backup plan. And I know it's not easy. I don't know where to go personally. I've been researching it like crazy. At the moment, Canada seems to be the only place. We just need to have a backup plan because we saw what happened in the history books, those books that they're trying to ban. We saw what happened. And I am scared that it's going to happen again. And I don't want to be one of the people that sits there and thinks, oh, well, it's not going to happen, or they're not going to let it happen again. And then it happens. And then I'm, so we need to fight. We need to keep that from happening.
Indeed. Well, thank you, Plastic. Once again, thank you for joining me on the show, Late Night with BDD. You look fantastic, by the way. You said something earlier about your old face. Explain, what do you mean by your old face?
In October, I got just a little light dusting of facial. It's called facial feminization. So they make an incision back here. They pull your face down. They shave down. For me, they shave down the brow bone because males typically have a more pronounced brow ridge. And that was always something that kind of bothered me. And when I was filming a movie, I saw on the monitor, it was a profile shot. And I was like, good Lord, that has to go. So I did just a little light stuff, but I'm really happy with it.
That doesn't sound light at all. It sounds serious.
It was quite the recovery. It was brutal.
Whew.
Yeah.
Well, whatever they did, it looks fantastic. You look marvelous.
Thank you so much. And thank you for having me on again.
My pleasure. I hope I can. I hope you can come back at some point if your schedule works out, and we'll keep this conversation going.
I would love that anytime.
Okay, so just hold tight there while I sign off with my viewers, and I'll see you on the other side.
Okay.
And ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me once again for another interesting and enlightening episode of Late Night with BDD. I'm your host, BDD, aka Brooklyn Dad. And folks, if you haven't gotten your shot yet, come on, then you're a Trumper. If you haven't gotten it, come on, protect yourself, protect your family, do the right thing, wear a mask, keep your social distance 6 feet or better. And I look forward to seeing you all here for the next show, which will be next week, same time, same place. I love you all. Peace.